our grandmother, and I'm going, Uncle Joe and Aunt Fanny, who were they? I never heard of them. And I called my sisters. I said, did you ever hear of this Uncle Joe and Aunt Fanny? And no, we never knew they existed. So I put some information into Ancestry.com, which I'm on every day, morning, noon, and night. Sorry, I don't cook and clean. I go shopping. But, and then somebody contacted me. Her name is Tristan Millstone. And it turns out she's married to someone who was one of the descendants of Joe Nathanson. So that sort of helped me find the Joseph Nathanson branch. And then she hooked me up with a cousin named Adam Rubin, who lives in Brooklyn. And my daughter lives in Brooklyn. So I met Adam for dinner, and just to make a long story shorter, shorter than I could go on, I did get a lot of information, and I researched everybody. So whether I got the information orally, you know, on Ancestry.com, through Facebook, I stole a lot of your pictures. People-to-people search, I paid to get information about people. And
are you part of the NSA?
Part of the Philadelphia Jewish Genealogy Society. But, because I know how to find information, I believe I got everybody's information. Now, not all correct, though, because I use Ancestry.com, I use Reunion for Mac, and I'm always putting different information from one program to the other to make hard copies. So sometimes I make mistakes. So, let me just give you a little bit of overview of our family. And then you don't have to memorize it, there's no test. But, although my poor husband has been tested. My siblings.
They survived.
They survived. I do have, I'm going to call it a rough draft. It's a booklet with all the information that I found so far about all of us and all of our ancestors. Some of the information, when you look at it, you'll see the numbers aren't right. It might say like 3 children, and it'll number 1, 2, it'll miss number 3. But that's not me. It's a default program. But there are things I can change. I also put in some education and occupation information for my family because I know that. And if you would like to share your education or occupation or your interests, you can always email me and I will add that to the booklet and then email everybody an updated version. Or if there's corrections. Whatever I'm telling you now is in this booklet. So, you know, to add anything or change anything, you'll let me know. So let me just start a little bit. Our family, Samuel and Leah Nathanson, I started with them over here because they're the first generation that came to the United States. But I do know who their parents were. Leah's mother was, is it on this chart? No. Okay, Leah's mother was Yetta and Isaac Richman. And that's where I get the Nathanson/Richman family, because she was a Richman. And Solomon, his parents were Nathan Nathanson and Leah Notoff. So that's the first generation that I know of, but then they're the first generation that came to America. So you'll see in this booklet, they're listed as the second generation, because we know about the first generation. So they came into New York, and then they went to Youngstown, Ohio. And a lot of you lived in Youngstown. If you lived in Youngstown, could you just raise your hand? And my mother lived in And then, so they had a twin that passed away, and they had Sarah Nathanson, the other twin. That's my grandmother. So that's your grandmother. And then Sarah had Rose, and Rose married Harold Schwartz and had 7 children. So Rose Schwartz's children raised their hands. So 4 of them are here. There are 7, right? Yes. There's 7. So, and descendants of Rose, we have Sarah Rose, and her 2 little cute girls. Then we have Aunt Mildred. She was the next child born. Sarah married again. She married Morris, we think, or Michael Lockman or Lackman. We're really not sure. And Aunt Mildred had 3 children. She had Arnold, she had Sheridan, and Cheryl Lynn. Cheryl.
Please use my tripod.
Here's Sheridan. He's our Nathanson family page on Facebook. Yay! Which is wonderful. We love you, Sheridan, and Cheryl, his sister. So,
Should have zoomed in on
then we
Sheridan.
had Aunt Evelyn, and unfortunately, our Aunt Evelyn passed away at an early age. And then we had our mother, who also passed away at an early age, but she had Sheila, and Roz,
Double da-da.
yeah, and Carl. I'm sorry, Mike.
And
Hard time recognizing you.
Marilyn. Yay.
And Sheila, I guess I should have said everybody's spouses, but I did that before,
You did.
so you're okay. And then we have Joseph Nathanson, his family, and he had a son, Raymond, and Harvey, and Dolores, who that people call Dolly. So we had, and I don't have the children. So Raymond Nathanson married Nanette Roth, and they had Phil and Stan. I don't know who's older. Phil's older.
Phil's older, year and a half older.
Okay, and Stan. So there we go, Stan. And then Harvey Nathanson had 4 children. He had Rob, Rick, Larry, and Wendy. And Dolores, that was called Dolly, she had her name Sharon, who changed her name to Sherry. Just like my mother's name was Sophie, and she changed her name to Sherry. She had Lynn and Holly. And unfortunately, Lynn was very ill and passed away last week. So, and I didn't know her, but Holly posted on Facebook.
Sherry passed away. Sherry passed away about 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So Holly's, I guess, the only one left.
Holly's in the Sherry, yeah, because Sherry is Adam's mother, and she passed away. So, what I'm going to do is, and we all have kids, a lot of us have kids, and kids had kids, but I don't know that information by heart. I know some of it, but not all of it. So, everybody will have a booklet. So also, if you want to ask a particular question, if you know of a question you want to ask anybody, since I'm like, we're all free to ask questions, Sheila.
There are many people with the name of Lynn in this family. And I'm just curious about where did that come from? Is there
Well, besides Lynn.
Marilyn, Ross Lynn, Cheryl Lynn, Judy Lynn,
Madeline.
Okay, see? That's a good question.
Was there a lid?
No, not that I know of. There was a Leah.
Maybe that's a variation of Leah. Liddy, yeah.
That's a very good question. So if anybody has anything they want to ask, I'll do my best to answer, or you can write down your questions.
Well, I just remember a story being told that when my mom was born, Aunt Fanny, who, was in the room when she was born, and my mom was born a blue baby. And if it hadn't been for Aunt Fanny picking my mom up, slapping her on the bottom, getting her to cry and come back to life, wouldn't be here today. So I just always knew that.
Well, you know what?
And your grandmother.
Because your mother was a twin. I think she
My
was a
mother
twin.
was a twin.
No, she wasn't a twin, but our grandmother had another baby who was still before your mother. Really?
And we mentioned the reason my mother was born 6 months old when her father, Harry Richman, who worked on the railroad, fell off the train and got killed. So she's the only child for that. That's when grandfather died.
Trying to film this. Not very good at this. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not trying to. I think that's enough of that.